Hi there, this is Chris Kellett with musegrid.com, and today we're going to be looking at how to modify widgets, and specifically we're going to be looking at the Creative Hub template from Musegrid and the Home Slider widget. Now we're not going to cover every single widget that's available, so we're just going to look at the principles of this one. So I've loaded up the Creative Hub theme here, and if we double click on the home page, we can pull up the slider here, and we can see that this slider has got this nice navigation button at the bottom here, and each slide has got its own text and button and images. Now there's a couple of ways of putting images into sliders. We happen to be using a background fill, so if I select that particular slide, we can see at the top here that we're using a fill. It has no color, but it does have an image fill. And I find that quite useful for when I'm putting text overlay so that we don't end up moving the image around. And it also means that we can resize the slider and we can use the options to scale to fit and scale to fill, which is useful when we're converting the slider into a mobile version. So let's go ahead and modify this. We're going to choose this slide here, and then we're going to change the background. So if I click on the fill and click on the image icon here, and I'm going to go to the sample image that I've selected here, and there we go, that's the background image changed. Now we can click on the text here, and we can click the button, change the link, and so on. But let's just take a look at some of the other options we've got in the widget. So if we select the widget here, and we get this little blue icon which gives us our options. I'm just going to move this over slightly so that we can see the options here. So we can see that we've got stacked, we've got scattered, and we've got lightbox. Now I'm using the tooltip widget here, which I find particularly useful for most cases because it gives us a lot more options. So stacked means that the images are stacked on top of each other, and because we're using a transition of horizontal, we get that nice slide effect. We could use vertical, and we could also use fading. We've got a click event, so when we click on these navigation buttons underneath the slider, it will click to the next slide. We could switch that to on rollover, so whenever we move the mouse over it would slide. We've got autoplay switched off, but we could switch that on, and then we've got shuffle, triggers on top, hide all initially. Now I find shuffle particularly good for use in when you want to have a page where you load up a different image each time the page loads. So if you use the shuffle, that's a great way of achieving that same functionality. Triggers on top, just make sure that any buttons that are going to be used for navigation within the slider sit on top rather than are covered up with the slide itself. Hide all initially, well, you don't want that clicked on when you've got a slider because you want that to be shown straight away. If you've got that clicked, then the slider won't actually show until the mouse moves over it. Autoplay, obviously, that switches it to the slides to change, and you can set how many seconds there. Now in some of our widgets you may find that there is no navigation to go through the slides. So how do you get to the slide that you want to modify? Well, that's pretty straightforward. Just click on the options again here, and we're going to switch on previous and next. Now we don't want those to show up when we publish the site, but they're useful for when we want to get to the slide that we want to alter. So once we've loaded those up, we can just click on them, and we can click through the slides here, and then once we've modified the slide that we want to, we can just again go into the options and switch them back off again, and then we've made all the modifications that we want. Now this applies to a lot of the slider widgets that you'll find on Musegrid, and when you're building your own sites you can use the same principles. But in later tutorials we'll cover other widgets as well, but this is just to get you started. Thanks for watching.